Did you realize that while I was walking on stage and you saw my face for the very first time, something very exciting happened? You subconsciously formed an opinion about me. So let me ask you, whom of you thinks or felt like I'm threatening? You can raise your hands, just don't run away, but hey. But whom of you felt that I looked trustworthy and you decided to listen to my talk carefully? Now you can raise your hands, please don't let me down. See? So within milliseconds, while you were seeing my unfamiliar face, your brain made a judgment on my character, and this has an influence on your reactions. I made a first impression. And you never get a second chance to make a first impression, so I only had this one chance. When I walk out and come back, no way, I can't change it. And moreover, there is science that it's very difficult to undo this first impression. So if you felt I looked threatening, we can have a chat later. And it will be very difficult for me to convince you that I'm not threatening. And interestingly, this is not dependent on gender, age, or ethnicity. So what does that mean? As I said, it's subconscious. It's originated in our stem brain. That means long ago, our ancestors already had to decide in seconds to approach or run away from another human being. And that would have been potentially life-saving or life-threatening. And even babies do that already. 7 months old, they turn towards a trustworthy face and they turn away from a threatening face. So that means first impression has an impact on our reactions and in our lives. You stay or run away. You listen or not, or you might even approach me after the talk. So it has a big impact on our lives. There's a bit of a funny story. When I was preparing my talk, I have kids, they are in their 20s, and they said, "Mommy, there's something else where it has a big impact." So obviously they are more, let's say, into match partner webs whatsoever. And they will not like that I tell you this now, but they said, you get these people propose to see them, and within seconds, seeing their photographs, you just swipe yes or no. So can you imagine, just on photographs, facial features, you decide in seconds about a potential lifetime partner? Interesting. Science all around the world looked into the phenomenon of first impressions. And what they found out, for example, is that people who look more trustworthy are more likely to secure a loan or to being exonerated from a crime. Others found out that CEOs with competent faces are more likely to be hired and to perform well, just to name a few. There's one scientist who actually spent his career in analyzing first impressions. And this is Professor Alexander Todorov from Chicago University. I really admire his work. I would be very happy to see him once, and I show you what he did. He was able to categorize physiognomic features of faces for specific traits, like in this case, trustworthiness. Isn't that impressive? You can see it, right? It's the same person, but you feel the difference. And of course, in this case, that's extreme differences in features. It's very easy to say who looks more trustworthy. But even if the changes get less, you can still feel it. It triggers a psychological effect. Can you see that? It's minimal changes. It's not much. This does not only count for trustworthiness, it only counts, for example, for dominance or other different traits. Now, the question rises, what do I have to do with that? What is my story behind that? I'm a plastic surgeon. Thank you for the nice introduction. So my story is, I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon, and I worked for many years, almost 15 years, as a passionate reconstructive microsurgeon. I was replanting hands, reconstructing defects from trauma, cancer, and I was all passionate about helping people in life, saving lives, restoring function, helping in terms of integrity of people. So I loved my job. I worked at university hospitals, I did my PhD in reconstructive surgery, but what happened is I got older, like we all do. And the more experience you get, the more difficult cases you get. So that was operations of 6, 8, 10 hours or even longer. And at night, if there's a trauma and they need help, of course they call you and you go in and you save lives. Of course you do that. But what happens when you get older is the recovery time gets more. And I got really exhausted. And I remember a morning I woke up after doing surgeries all night, facing the next case of the day, and I thought, I need a plan B. It's also about quality of life. So consequently, I built my own clinic in Vienna. And what do plastic surgeons in private clinics do? They do aesthetic surgery. This is what I struggled a bit. Because, I mean, it's not that reconstructive surgery means we don't have to aim for aesthetic results. Of course, if I do a facial reconstruction, it needs to be aesthetic. But this is what I definitely did not want to do. Overdone faces, duck lips, unnatural looks, no way. That was not me. So I had a dinner with another plastic surgeon and a dermatologist, and we discussed this issue. And then we came up with the idea of Professor Todorov. And I thought, I got really obsessed with it, because I thought, this is exactly what I do all day. I change proportions, I change volume in the face, I change first impressions. And this is why I can change lives to the better. This is where I can do it differently. No unnatural looks. It's not about wrinkles, it's not about aging, it's about how people are being perceived, and this is where I can make a change. So I followed up on this, and I wanted to use this knowledge to refine the choice of aesthetic treatments. And what I did for that, I found people who were the same excited about the idea than me, and we trained an algorithm in artificial intelligence with hundreds and thousands of data based on first impressions to first of all establish a scoring algorithm. So we made it measurable. We did validate all these data. I come from research, I come from university, so we did some validations of these data. And this is what we got. We were able to quantify first impressions. And what you see with these ladies is the one on the left, she looks happier, she looks more trustworthy. And even though both of them look attractive, but the person on the right, she gives a more dominant and threatening feeling. Don't you feel that? Of course, we cannot judge about the real character of this person, but this is the impression they give us, and this is what we feel about them, and that makes a difference. Now, how can I use this to change clinics? So I thought scoring is nice, but I also need to visualize the effects to my patients. I want to show them. And this is why we went further and we trained another artificial intelligence to change to more faces according to desired trait. That's what we did. So I give you some examples. You see the original photograph on the left, and you see the morph AI on the right. And you can feel this guy looks more dominant after the morph, or she wanted to look a bit more attractive. You see, it's subtle changes. The person doesn't change. She stays the same, but you get a bit of a different feeling. Or this lady, how would she look if she looks more competent? Can you see the difference? It doesn't mean that we as plastic surgeons have to do these things, but I wanted to educate patients and doctors that we have a responsibility and that we might change things to the worse if we sometimes do what patients wish for. We have to sometimes save them for their own wishes. This is what I felt is important. And the good thing is, we can also show them that with subtle changes, we can make it better. This is actually my assistant in my clinic. She allowed me to use her photographs publicly. And as you can see from the left to the right, the left is the original photograph. You see the morph. She wanted to look more attractive. The middle photo, you see a heat map where I get an indication what needed to be changed to change her impression. And then you see her 10 minutes after the treatment, and on the farthest right, the result after 2 months. So let's have a look what changed. You see that she looks less tired, she looks less threatening, but she looks more attractive, like she wished for. She looks healthier, more trustworthy, more confident, and most importantly, she still looks natural. And this is what I aim for my patients. This is what's so important to me. You have to imagine patients come to my office and they say, hey doctor, can you please fill up my lips or my nasolabial folds or put some botulinum toxin in my glabellar lines? But then I ask further, why do you want that? Why? And they tell me, you know, I don't want my grandchildren to ask me why I'm grumpy all the time, or I don't want my friends to ask me all the time that I don't sleep enough or why I look so tired. So I think this is where aesthetic becomes a reconstructive part. When I help patients to radiate and to be perceived the way they really feel. And this is where I feel the responsibility, and this is what I would like to give to my patients. So it's not only about aging, it's not only about wrinkles, it's not about single areas, it's a whole holistic approach which can make a difference. So I want them to be natural, genuine, authentic, and come back to their own. That's important to me, and this is where I see the responsibility. So if we can change the reactions, like we just discussed, we can change the interactions, and therefore it can really change lives. I thank you for your attention.